Welcome to Channel Unveiling Mysteries. There was a man considered the biggest gangster boss in Japan. He dared to bomb a Toyota motor factory, attack the Chinese consulate, and burn down the house of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. There was nothing a gangster like him wouldn't dare to do. He was so brutal that even Japan's largest gang, the Yamaguchi Gumi, had to keep their distance. But this evil man, whom even the police couldn't touch, was finally arrested over a story about penis enhancement surgery. Welcome, esteemed viewers, back to the channel. Today we will explore a one-time nightmare for the police and people of Japan. But first, please help me by liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to receive fascinating videos daily. Satoru Nomura was born in 1946 in Kitakyushu, Fukuoka, Japan. His family was very well off, and basically, he never had to endure any hardship. Moreover, Satoru was the youngest son in the family, so everyone treated him like a treasure, satisfying his every demand. Satoru grew up in warmth and protection, gradually forming an arrogant and authoritarian personality. On the other hand, whenever he wanted to do something, Satoru had to ask his father and older brother for permission first. As the youngest child, he had a great obsession with pursuing the obedience of others. When Satoru was young, his family's wealth meant many people willingly followed him. Gradually, he became the leader in bullying other children. Due to his family's landlord background, the parents of the bullied children did not dare to demand justice for their kids. Having never been taught a lesson, Satoru became even more stubborn and arrogant. At the age of 10, he began following a group of gangsters in and out of street casinos. Initially, Satoru had no experience and almost always had to spend money at the casino. As a poor but wealthy player, he became the most famous guest in the casino. But in a mixed place like a casino, conflicts were inevitable. The young Satoru Nomura at that time often carried a short wooden sword for self-defense. If he was displeased with anyone, he would rush in to fight them. For him, violence was the best solution to every problem. Soon, Satoru became the most famous delinquent child within a 10-mile radius. Satoru's father never expected that his beloved youngest son would be so rebellious. So the old father found a place to educate Satoru and sent him to a prestigious school. He hoped Satoru could change by receiving an education there. But things backfired. When he was confined in the school, he became even more irritable. He formed a gang, recruited underlings, and led them to fight with others for no reason. He even snuck out of school to cause trouble outside. Things became more and more serious, and he had to ask his father to bail him out of the police station. Even so, Satoru Nomura's father only reluctantly scolded him a few times. He just reasoned and persuaded his son over and over. The young man apparently agreed, but he still revealed his true nature in secret. When Satoru Nomura was about to graduate from junior high school, he and his accomplices were arrested for theft. Satoru was taken from the school and sent to a juvenile detention center. The prestigious school finally could not stand it anymore. He had ruined the school's reputation, so they sent him a notice of expulsion directly. After being released from the juvenile detention center, Satoru was no longer bound by school and went to many places. He relied on his wealthy family background to spend money and befriend a group of gangsters. Satoru hung out with them in various places every day, especially because he liked gambling. The place he often went to was the headquarters of the largest gangster group in Fukuoka, the Kudokai's casino. Although Satoru Nomura was young, he now had years of gambling experience. He learned many skills. Basically, he would win every bet. But how could a mafia casino allow someone to always win? The casino manager, Kiyoshi Kimura, proposed a bet with Satoru. If Satoru could beat him, he could take the money and leave. If not, both he and his money would have to stay. Satoru, unafraid, agreed without a second thought. As expected, the older the ginger, the spicier it is. Kiyoshi Kimura easily won all the money and even made his opponent a debtor. Satoru knew he was in big trouble this time and did not beg for mercy. He followed their rules and would not resist. But unexpectedly, they did not attack him, but instead invited Satoru to join the Kudokai. Because they felt Satoru Nomura was a decisive person, full of ambition and courage. This was a good seedling that could be cultivated. Most people who join such gangs do so when they feel desperate in life. But Satoru Nomura, the son of a wealthy family, saw joining a gang as his dream. So he agreed immediately. Satoru was never one to be disciplined. After joining the Kudokai, he didn't want to remain a mere underling in the gang forever, but always thought of ways to climb to a higher position. Therefore, Satoru began to play to his strengths. The simplest and most direct way to build connections was to throw money at them. This was the easiest thing for Satoru, and it was the method he had used since childhood. But soon, Satoru discovered that friends bought with money did not truly respect him. Some even said behind his back that he was a useless person who only knew how to spend money. This made Satoru feel disappointed for the first time and sparked his desire to stand out even more. After realizing that spending money was useless, Satoru found a way to establish authority so they would voluntarily submit to him. He became the spearhead in the wars between gangs, using his ruthlessness to intimidate opponents. Once, he even managed to kill an opponent's leader with a single blow. A young man who had just joined the gang could do such a cruel thing, leaving a deep impression on the gang members. Satoru's reputation also spread further and further. His senior, Kiyoshi Kimura, was very pleased with the seedling he had chosen, so he also handed over his entire casino for Satoru to manage. Besides that, he also personally taught him martial arts and self-defense techniques. Satoru learned more and more skills, and his desire for power also grew larger and larger, and his goal was to gradually climb to the top position. But the top position in the Japanese underworld is for life, without a term. As long as the person at the top is not dead, those behind will never have a chance. Kiyoshi Kimura knew Satoru's ambition and ability, and he was also willing to help and support him to rise to power. Satoru used the power of money and help from Kimura. In just a few months, he had built a great reputation in the gang. Even the Kudokai boss had heard his name and praised him. Satoru had been preparing for success for many years and finally got his chance. In 1980, the Kudokai competed with another gang in Kitakyushu for territory. A major war broke out. Shintaro, the leader of the Tanaka group, which Satoru was under, was killed. They couldn't be without a leader. Satoru's years of hard work finally paid off. He was elected by everyone to the position of leader of the Tanaka group. Satoru was not overly excited about becoming a big brother, because his goal was even higher. He managed the gang more carefully, investing all his time and energy into it, and gradually became a workaholic in the gang. Under his leadership, the Tanaka group also gradually became the strongest group in the Kudokai. 8 years later, Satoru's parents both passed away, leaving him 700 million yen and tens of thousands of acres of land, a massive inheritance. Although his father was extremely disappointed with this youngest son, they always hoped that Satoru would return as a decent son to uphold the legacy they left behind, leave the gang, and live a stable life. But Satoru Nomura paid no attention to his parents' last words. Through years as a group leader, he also realized that to be at the top of a group, internal support was not enough. The support of local politicians was also needed. So after receiving the inheritance, one of the villas was immediately converted into a private casino. He knew that wealthy businessmen and parliamentarians would find it inconvenient to enter and exit regular casinos, so he provided them with the most discreet protection and top-notch service. Although in front of them, Satoru always had to be humble. Compared to the benefits he gained, these things could be overlooked. The people who came to the casino were not short of money. Satoru's casino quickly had the highest revenue. In one night, it could even reach 200 million yen. He not only made a lot of money, but was also very happy to serve these powerful people. With their support, Satoru also successfully became the second in command of the Kudokai. The old boss at that time was Hideo Mizoguchi. He also knew that Satoru's talent was limitless, so Hideo informed Satoru that he would be the future successor of the Kudokai, letting him manage everything in the gang. After taking power, Satoru Nomura became even more shameless. To completely eliminate dissenters in the gang, he established an extremely strict system. Anyone who did not comply or violated it, Satoru would just use force to resolve it. Soon, no one in the Kudokai dared to oppose him. Satoru not only had supreme power in the gang, but he also wanted to be the boss of bosses. The development of power inevitably cost money. His casino could no longer satisfy his appetite, so Satoru was preparing to enter another industry. In 1998, Satoru wanted to invest in agriculture and fisheries. He found the chairman of the Kitakyushu Fishery Association to discuss related issues. But this chairman hated gangsters, so he not only refused Satoru's request, but even chased him out of his house several times. As someone who was always praised by others, he now felt very humiliated. In a fit of anger, he directly ordered his subordinates to kill this chairman. Killing a government official should have been a major crime, but Satoru had long colluded with many local officials. Now they were all part of an interest group, so of course someone would protect him. So after the incident, Satoru randomly pushed his subordinates out to take responsibility, so no one dared to hold him accountable. Enjoying special protection, his actions became more and more reckless. In Satoru's eyes, violence could solve any problem. In 2003, a nightclub did not pay protection fees to the Kudokai. Satoru directly ordered his subordinates to attack the nightclub, throwing a grenade inside. The result was 12 civilian casualties. But even so, the incident was hushed up by Satoru's accomplices. At this time, Satoru Nomura was truly too powerful. In 2008, Satoru finally officially took the position of the Kudokai boss. The power in his hands had also reached its peak. After becoming the leader of the largest gang in Kitakyushu, he completely lost his humanity. The local people called Satoru the living king of hell in Kitakyushu. To expand the power of the Kudokai, Satoru built his own arsenal. Each gang member was equipped with a pistol. In addition, there were submachine guns in the arsenal, as well as bombs and many other weapons of mass destruction. The military strength of the Kudokai was increasing sharply, becoming the most violent gang in Kitakyushu. Even the largest gang in Japan at the time, the Yamaguchi-gumi, had to concede to them and withdraw most of their forces from Kitakyushu. At this point, Satoru Nomura finally achieved a true monopoly. No one in his territory could say no to him. Satoru, with absolute power, married the sister of Japanese politician Ryumatsu Matsumoto. Having connections with politicians, he regarded the law as nothing. He frequently caused violent incidents in Kitakyushu, showing no respect for the police and government at all. The factory of Japan's largest automobile company, Toyota, in Fukuoka, was burned down because it refused to pay protection fees to the Kudokai. This incident caused a huge shock in the Fukuoka area. For a time, Many large Japanese companies interested in investing in Fukuoka City gave up their intentions. Some other investors who could not tolerate the Kudokai, which charged unreasonable protection fees, chose to leave. It can be said that the economic development of the Fukuoka region, managed by Satoru Nomura, stagnated for 10 years. But Satoru not only did not reflect, but he also saw this as a sign of his power. He enjoyed the power and fear of everyone. He then carried out an attack on the Chinese consulate general in Fukuoka, followed by the incident of burning down the house of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. It can be said he had gone to the extreme of madness. The evil behavior of Satoru Nomura and the Kudokai had exhausted the patience of the Japanese police. In addition, in preparation for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, Japan would not allow any risk factors to exist. The Kudokai would be the first gang to be liquidated. The Kudokai was defined as the most extreme violent gang at present. The police first attacked some members of the Kudokai, restricted their business, and did not allow them to go abroad to clip Satoru's wings. Then, the police were also comprehensively collecting evidence of Satoru's crimes. Unfortunately, every time Satoru carried out illegal activities, he let his subordinates take the fall. There was no direct evidence pointing to him. For a time, the police could only postpone the arrest of the boss. Actually, he knew very well that he was being targeted by the police, but he was not panicked at all. He was very confident that with his power and strong connections, no one could touch a single hair on his head. So he still maintained his arrogant style of the past. In 2014, Satoru was 68 years old. He began to feel that his penis was not functioning as well as before, so he decided to have surgery to regain his lost pride. But he considered this embarrassing, so he hid his identity and pretended to be an ordinary old Japanese man to go to a private hospital for the service. On the day of the surgery, Satoru Nomura lay naked on the operating table. Kako, who was the nurse participating in the surgery at that time, looked at the old man with a serious face. She thought he was nervous, so she joked about his tattoos while working. But unexpectedly, Satoru Nomura suddenly became angry. As a gang boss, he considered tattoos one of his proudest things. He thought Kako's joking tone meant she was looking down on him, so he started yelling. No matter how much Kako apologized, Satoru could not calm his anger. It was not until the hospital director personally came to apologize that Satoru calmed down and allowed them to continue the surgery. After it was over, Kako thought the incident had finally ended, but she had no idea that her bad luck had just begun. Satoru was not satisfied with the size after the surgery. Besides that, due to his old age and decreased physical function, the wound healing process after the surgery was also not good. Inflammation and infection occurred. This led to local ulcers in his lower part. It made Satoru Nomura go mad. He directly blamed everything on Kako, thinking that she did not serve him enthusiastically. In a fit of rage, Satoru Nomura called his subordinates to assassinate Kako to satisfy his hatred. After the subordinates found out Keiko's whereabouts, they ambushed her near her house one day when she was working the night shift. As Keiko was about to reach her home, the subordinate rushed out, covered her mouth, and dragged her into a small alley. Then he pulled out a dagger and stabbed Kako multiple times. Fortunately, at this time, someone nearby heard the noise and ran over to see the situation. The subordinate, afraid of being caught, left Keiko behind and quickly fled. Kako was taken to the hospital for emergency treatment by a passerby. A few days later, Kako woke up in the hospital. The police immediately asked her about what had happened that day. But Kako said she had never seen that gangster before. Unable to find any clues about the killer, the police asked her to think about whether she had offended anyone recently. Suddenly, The scene where she was scolded by Satoru Nomura appeared in Kako's mind. If she had offended anyone, he was the only one. But Satoru had used a fake identity, so Kako did not know his real name. She could only describe to the investigators the tattoos she had seen and his appearance. After hearing Kako's description, the police's expression immediately changed. In Japan, each gangster has a unique tattoo. The person Kako described was clearly the boss of the Kudokai, Satoru Nomura. The police, who had long had a headache over Satoru, finally found a breakthrough. Under Kako's accusation, the police's operation to destroy the Kudokai was also carried out. Because they feared the armed power of this gang, the National Police Agency of Japan deployed an additional 3,800 police officers from all over the country and dispatched 150 riot police squads. On September 11, 2014, the police surrounded Satoru Nomura's villa. While everyone was preparing for a fierce battle, Satoru calmly walked out in a tracksuit. He had been in and out of the police station quite a lot. According to him, although the police had mobilized a large force this time, with his relationships with high-ranking government officials, this arrest operation was surely just a formality, and he would be released soon. So he didn't need to start a fight with the police. But this time, Satoru Nomura had completely miscalculated. He had to face charges in court. There was no direct evidence to clearly prove that he had sent someone to assassinate Kako, and his tax evasion could not meet the standard for a death sentence. As long as Satoru did not die, he had all sorts of ways to get out of prison. But Satoru did not expect that the police would never let him go. In 2021, Satoru Nomura had been prosecuted 6 times and charged 62 times. During this period, the Kudokai, with no one to lead it, also completely disbanded. Without the Kudokai, the support behind Satoru Nomura was also cut in half. At this time, he met his enemy, the Minister of Justice of Japan, Yoko Kamikawa. The death penalty is almost impossible to carry out in Japan. In addition to meeting the conditions, it also requires the signature of the Minister of Justice. Most ministers advocate for the abolition of the death penalty, but only Yoko Kamikawa is a rare official who supports the death penalty. After taking office, she took over Satoru Nomura's case. She thought he must be sentenced to death. Although there was no evidence that Satoru Nomura was directly involved in the case, Yoko Kamikawa still firmly believed it. The Kudokai is a highly hierarchical organization with very strict discipline. All actions of subordinates must be directed by Satoru. Therefore, he was the one behind the case. On August 24, 2021, Satoru Nomura was sentenced to death and to be executed immediately. After the sentence was announced, Satoru completely panicked. He frantically insulted and threatened Minister Yoko Kamikawa. In the end, Satoru was executed by the police. The death of the gang boss caused a great shock to Japanese gangs and also gave the Japanese police the confidence to fight against the forces of the underworld. Since then, the Japanese underworld has become quieter. If Satoru Nomura had followed his parents' arrangements, perhaps he could have lived a prosperous life without worrying about food and clothing for the rest of his life. But from the day he chose to join the Kudokai, fate had destined him for a terrible end. Anyone who does evil things will be punished. The fate of Satoru Nomura, the Yakuza boss, was no exception. Don't forget to subscribe to the Unveiling Mysteries channel to always receive the latest videos that help you achieve success in life. Thank you for following and accompanying the channel.